Hey guys, it's Dani. Today I'm gonna talk about watering orchids with aquarium water. You guys might know I do have aquariums. I have a second channel that I post aquarium content from time to time. Check it down below. But in the past, I did make a video on why I don't use aquarium water for my orchids, and I pointed out some stuff there which, yes, Maya, how the turns have tabled. But I pointed out some stuff there, and I will reiterate them a little bit today on why it might be best not to use aquarium water with your orchids. But because now I do, I'm gonna tell you what changed and why the water that I currently use is safe for orchids. So before we start, don't forget to give this video a like if you end up enjoying it, and why not subscribe? I post multiple times a week and it's completely free, and my videos have bird songs in them because why not? But if you're feeling a little extra and you can, consider further supporting my channel by becoming a member, checking out the affiliate links down below, checking out the merch, or using the super thanks option below my videos. Righty then. So, you might know that many people do actually use their aquarium water with orchids, and there is this idea that aquarium water is full of nutrients and it's the perfect water for your orchids. Well, that is a bit of a stretch, and to make a long story short, I believe that it really depends on the type of tank you have and the type of fish you have, whether the water from the tank is appropriate for orchids or not. There are many tanks, many setups, many fish that enjoy hard water. And as you might know, orchids don't really enjoy hard water. So anything African cichlids, Sulawesi type of tanks, again, no, that is hard water with high pH, not something we usually want for our orchids. We want softer water, if possible with a neutral pH, even an acidic pH, that'd be great. I know it's not always possible, so at least close to neutral, close to 7 as possible. That would be a more ideal water. So from the get-go, we're excluding those types of tanks. Obviously, I don't think I need to mention, but saltwater tanks, no, we don't need salt in our orchid pots. But what about community tanks? You know, the ones that have live bearers, like guppies and lures, or maybe some discus tanks, maybe your betta tank. Are those suitable? Again, not sure, because community fish tend to be very adaptable. I'll tell you how mine are. They're incredibly adapted to harder water because they're imported from sources that breed them in these conditions. So I can keep my rams in pretty hard water without a problem. I know some of you will cringe if you're growing rams. What? Hard water? Yes, hard water. It's fine. They do just fine because they're coming from sources that grow them like that. So I use pure tap water in my community tanks. I use pure tap water with my betta fish. I also use a soil which acidifies it a little bit or brings it closer to neutral, yes, but in essence, that water is no different than my tap water in the end, other than maybe a slight difference in pH. So, as you might know, I don't typically use tap water with my orchids because it is quite hard, and in time it will accumulate salts on the top of the medium, and not only wherever it's exposed to air, it will accumulate salts, and those salts can actually damage some roots. They're unsightly, and they also can make the potting mix break down a little bit faster. So I typically use a combination between tap water and reverse osmosis water, just to be a little bit more economical with the reverse osmosis water. So that's what I use with my orchids. Some of you guys might not have the same issue because you might have very good water at the tap. So in that case, yeah, your aquarium water can actually be suited for your plants, because if the tap water is suited and you're using tap water in the tank, yes, the tank water will be suited for your orchids as well. In my case, quite the opposite. Tap water, not at all suited. Aquarium water is the same as tap water, it's not at all suited. So that's why I don't use my community tank water. Let's address the nutrients aspect of it all. Again, it depends a lot on what type of aquarium you have. I personally have heavily planted tanks, and even though I do use a nutritious soil, the water in my tanks is usually pretty depleted of nutrients because all of those plants just consume it all. And furthermore, the nutrients in the medium, after a while, they're just not available in the water anymore. I'm using a type of soil that actually accumulates nutrients from the water column and stores them in its structures and makes them available for the aquatic plants. There are tanks which do not have plants, and yes, the water in those tanks might have a lot of nitrate. I'm not sure about any other type of nutrients because orchids need more than nitrogen. So I'm not entirely sure the values of the other nutrients because we don't have enough tests to test them. They might not be what orchids need. Furthermore, orchids need quite a lot more nitrogen than a tank should have. You should not have more than, let's say, 50 parts per million in a community tank, depending on your fish. 50 parts per million, not enough for orchids. They would need upwards of maybe 150 parts per million nitrogen as far as my knowledge goes. So what I'm trying to say is that you don't know if that tank water has enough nutrients for your orchid. Even if the water is soft enough, you can use it, but without fertilizing it, it might just not be enough for an orchid. In my case, the water in my tanks doesn't have much nitrogen. It actually has kind of zero nitrates, and the other elements, not entirely sure, but at the rate the plants are growing, I don't think it has a lot. So the water in my tank, not only is it kind of too hard for orchids, but it's also not very nutritious. So why would I use it? Right. But this video is titled, Why Do I Now Use Tank Water? What changed? Well, I am starting to grow a very specific little animal that actually thrives in soft water. And these are the Caridina shrimps, which are the sweetest, tiniest, most precious little animals. I'm so in love with them. Yeah, I know they're not as popular as betta fish, but there is quite a community behind growing shrimp-only tanks. And guess what? I have shrimp-only tanks, and I have quite a few of them at the moment. And in those tanks, I use purely reverse osmosis water remineralized. But I don't remineralize it to very high levels. It's medium soft water, I would say. But by all accounts, my tap water combined with reverse osmosis water would yield something like that as well. So this means that whatever water I extract from those tanks, I can definitely use. Do I use it as it is? No, I fertilize it. And I use the MSU. And yes, this is made for rain or RO water, but it works with softer, medium soft water as well. It's okay. I tested it for many years like that. So I use tank water that I extract from my tank with MSU, and voila, we have perfect water for orchids. Now there is another thing to add here. Because shrimps have a very small bioload, they don't create a whole lot of mess. I don't need to vacuum the substrate as often. Maybe I do it once a month if I remember. And it's okay, I have plants, the plants take care of all of that, breaking down organic matter. There isn't a heavy bioload there, so it's not so important to just vacuum every time I change the water, a weekly water change. But in my community tanks, I have to, because those are fish, they're not shrimps. So again, because the water that I extract is clean, it's not full of fish poop, which I would not use on my orchids. This is not soil. It doesn't break down in here. So because of that, I can also use it without a problem. So that's what I started to do recently. All of the water that I extract from my tanks, I save up in a different bucket. I place MSU fertilizer in it, and behold, I use it with my orchids, and it's exactly the same as me combining tap water with reverse osmosis water. Nutrient-wise, it is very low because in those tanks, I do not even use liquid fertilizer. It's not really all that good all the time for the shrimps. There's also no need because I have very easy to grow plants that take up nutrients from the actual soil, not from the water column. So the water that I extract is soft and without much nutrients in it. The plants in the aquarium take care of that. So I have to fertilize it. But yeah, that is perfect water for orchids, and I am so much more economical with water, really. Which was a big concern for me when I started to have these breeding tanks for my shrimps, because I knew I would have to use only reverse osmosis water. And I was thinking, how do I balance it with the orchids and the tanks? Non-issue. It's not a problem. I can use the water in those tanks. And I think my orchids really appreciate it. In the end, I think it's even softer than my combination of tap water and reverse osmosis water. So that is why I now use my tank water with orchids. But as I was saying at the beginning, and I actually insisted on that because I know some people just read the title, watch the first 1-2 minutes of the video. I wanted to insist with the negative, with the how sometimes tank water is not really all that suitable, no matter how good some articles make it sound. Some is just either the same as tap water, either downright not suitable. So keep that in mind and really think about the water that you have in your tanks. Maybe it is suitable, but maybe you still have to add fertilizer, which I believe is the case. Even if you do have nitrates in your water, what about the other elements? Orchids need a whole array of micro elements and macro elements, which I don't know if fish poop has all of that. I really don't know. Depends on the fish you have, depends what you feed them. Some fish will produce more phosphate than others. Orchids don't necessarily need as much phosphate. So there are a lot of things to consider there. Before you start putting the water in your tank to your orchid, yeah, think about it a little bit. Think if you need to add anything to that water or if you're just better off not using it, and so on and so forth. Righty, so with that said, that is about it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in my tanks, check the link below for my second channel. I'll try to post a little bit more often there as well. I personally love shrimps, I love bettas, and I will redo a little bit my tank setup because I have too many tanks that don't fulfill me. I'm gonna specialize, I think, in shrimps and maybe a few betta fish. Maybe have just one big community tank and that is it. Alrighty, so with that said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you found this video interesting and useful. Let me know, what water do you use with your orchids? Do you use tank water, and what are the parameters of your tanks? Right, so with that said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day and I'll see you all next time. Bye!